Afternoon, everybody. It's particularly tall today. Have we done something different? Do you guys like it this way? No? Where's the button? We'll go down a little bit. Okay. I've got a statement off the top, and then I'll turn to your questions. I want to begin with the presidential transition. The President and Secretary Carter have both emphasized our responsibility to carry out a smooth and effective transition to the next Commander-in-Chief. At the Department of Defense, that transition effort is being led by Eric Rosenbach, Secretary Carter's Chief of Staff, who has held numerous planning sessions with senior department leaders, the most recent of which occurred this week. As the Secretary said in his memo to department employees yesterday, this department is committed to carrying out this mission with the same professionalism and excellence that guides everything we do. We have a duty to the men and women of the U.S. military and the thousands of civilian employees that will serve the next administration, as well as the American people, to do this job right, and we will. The Secretary also made clear yesterday that as we begin the transition, we will also continue to serve the current Commander-in-Chief with our full effort, and that means continuing to address the national security challenges that confront us. Among those is the ongoing military campaign to defeat ISIL, and I'd like to provide you a quick operational update on that. In Iraq, Iraqi security forces continue to apply pressure on multiple fronts in the operation to retake Mosul. The advances so far are forcing ISIL to choose where they want to try and defend the city. To their credit, Iraqi security forces continue to take steps to minimize civilian casualties. The coalition continues to do the same when it comes to the air campaign. Specifically in the east, Iraqi counterterrorism forces continue to deliberately isolate and clear areas of the eastern districts, securing key neighborhoods. To the north, Bashika has been retaken, although some back-clearing still continues. And there has been more progress in clearing the towns of Bawiza and Said, bringing the ISF within 2 kilometers approximately of Mosul. South of Mosul, Iraqi forces consolidated control of al-Rashid and Sahima, and they completed the clearance of Abbas Rajab. In Syria, the SDF continued their drive toward Raqqa, and they continue to make progress against moderate ISIL resistance. ISIL forces in Syria are also under pressure from Turkish-supported Syrian opposition forces, which liberated a number of towns and villages southeast of Dabiq. The momentum in Iraq and Syria has, of course, been assisted by coalition support, including air power. Yesterday, coalition forces conducted more than a dozen strikes, employing 74 munitions in support of operations towards Raqqa, and 7 strikes using aircraft and artillery, and employing 67 munitions supporting ISF and Kurdish operations near Mosul. The bottom line is that across Iraq and Syria, ISIL remains under increasing pressure, and its problems are multiplying as we apply that pressure on the battlefield. A brief schedule note as well. Early this afternoon, Secretary Carter hosted a ceremony here in the Pentagon to honor former National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was presented with the Department of Defense Medal for Distinguished Public Service. As you know, Secretary Carter has been highlighting the contributions of distinguished national security leaders who have contributed to the DoD mission, and it was in that spirit that Dr. Brzezinski received the award today. And also at this hour, Secretary Carter is meeting with members of the Foreign Diplomatic Corps here at the Pentagon as well. And with that, I am happy to take your questions. Bob Burns.
Peter, on the transition,
Yeah.
has the President-elect's transition people contacted Eric Rosenbach or his people about having briefings or meetings yet?
As of this morning, the last time I checked, Bob, we had not had any direct contact yet from anyone with the Trump campaign or from the President-elect staff.
And the question on Iraq, do you have any comment on the report by Amnesty International that there have been a number of unlawful killings and torturing of civilians by the Iraqi federal police outside of Mosul in the last 4 hours?
We've seen those reports from Amnesty International, and I know this was a question that we got the other day as well, and obviously we have concerns about those reports and any indication of human rights abuses in Iraq in the course of this campaign would cause us concern. And of course, we would expect the Iraqi government to investigate all of these allegations as Prime Minister Abadi has indicated he would be prepared to do. This is a situation where those forces coming in, any reports like this should be completely investigated, and we would call on the Iraqi government to carry out that kind of investigation. We can't confirm that these events took place, but we have seen the reports from these human rights groups.
Have Iraqi police who are involved in this operation undergone any kind of, human rights part of the training, but as part of the U.S. training leading up to the...
Bob, as you know, all of the training that we conduct includes discussions about the law of armed conflict and training in terms of exactly these issues. I cannot tell you that every single member of the federal police force has gone through that specific training. Certainly, anyone who's gone through U.S. training has done so. I feel confident in saying that our partners in the coalition who have conducted training particular police forces, these are countries with significant experience in this field, that would have been part of their program as well. But I can't speak to that specifically. I can't speak to whether or not every single member of the Iraqi Federal Police has gone through that training. Certainly anyone we have trained, that's been a component of our training. Phil.
So, also on the transition, has the Secretary expressed any concern about any of his signature policies, perhaps on, Force the Future or anything like that, being quickly undone by a Trump administration? And has he reached out to members of Congress to try and seek any protections for any of those policies?
You've heard the Secretary speak several times, including most recently in discussing Force the Future. He was asked this question at City College of New York. The Secretary is confident that good ideas survive, and that the good ideas that he's put in place, specifically with regard to making sure that our forces get the kind of support they need to continue to be the finest fighting force the world has ever seen into the future, and that the Force the Future initiatives are all initiatives that make sense today and will make sense in the future. And so he's confident that those good ideas will survive. And he's, of course, been an advocate for them for some time, and certainly is hopeful that members of Congress who support them will do the same.
And has he reached out to anyone to try and safeguard them? Because they could just as easily be reversed by the next Secretary of Defense.
I'm not aware of any individual contact he's had with members of Congress, but certainly people should be fully aware of the Secretary's support for, again, a signature initiative for him, something that he feels very strongly about, that's gotten the support of a lot of people, both inside and outside the Pentagon, and something that he feels is important for making sure, again, his goal here was not necessarily to serve this Secretary of Defense. These are changes that he believes are important not only for his successor, but his successor's successor on down the line. This is to make sure that our forces stay on the cutting edge, both in terms of technology and skills, and also stay current with the world around them. And that reflects some of the changes that he's talked about with regard to whether it's maternity leave and child care hours, to also making sure that our service members get the chance to have professional advancement as well, the kinds of things they might be looking for out in the private sector. That way we ensure that the best and the most talented have an opportunity, should they choose to do so, we certainly hope so, to continue to serve this country in uniform.
And what about on other issues like, obviously he's been skeptical of Russian intentions. He's been very critical of the Assad regime. There are people in Syria, rebels that are forces that support Assad, and also, we've seen statements from Russia expressing optimism about a Trump administration. Is he concerned about reversals in policy that could be talked about in the United States, or has he expressed any concerns in meetings with staff about those policies, or is he progressing as if his vision will continue?
Phil, the campaign is over. The Secretary of Defense, as he indicated yesterday, is executing the transition as the President has requested. We will do that. We will do that with the skill and excellence that everyone expects, but we're not going to get into a policy debate that was part of the campaign. The Secretary will continue to serve this Commander-in-Chief, will continue to articulate his best advice and counsel to the Commander-in-Chief, and he will do so as he has since he's taken this office. Lucas.
Peter, in Mosul today there's a report from Reuters quoting an Iraqi military advisor, saying the Iraqi forces are actually only in control of 2 districts and that the operation is not going as well as he had hoped. An Iraqi military official said he called the Mosul operation a nightmare. And have Iraqi forces paused their campaign, and perhaps these optimistic predictions, were they a little premature?
Again, you can talk to the Iraqis. I'm sure if Fox has crews there, you can see for yourself the results that they're seeing on the ground. I don't know the source of these particular comments, But the Iraqi security forces are seeing results on the ground in Mosul. I think anyone who's there can see that for themselves. And so we'll leave it to the Iraqis to characterize their performance as well. We're seeing what we're seeing on behalf of the coalition. We're providing the enabling support. We've also said all along that this is going to be a difficult fight, and ISIL is a difficult enemy, and this is an urban environment that we've always said would be challenging. And these Iraqi security forces, the Kurdish Peshmerga forces, are demonstrating significant skill and resilience in this fight, and they've faced resistance, and they are fighting hard to retake a city that is the second largest city in Iraq, and one that is suffering right now under the brutality of ISIL. And the sooner it's freed from that, the better.
And turning attention at home, there was a crash yesterday off the coast of California involving 2 Marine Corps F-18 Hornets. I was wondering, in light of this collision and this crash, does the Secretary believe that Marine Corps aviation is in a crisis right now?
I don't believe the Secretary believes it's in a crisis. This is an unfortunate accident. As I understand it, one service member was injured in this accident. And, you know, one thing that's, again, you and I have talked at length about marine aviation. These were Marine aviators out there training, trying to boost readiness, which the Secretary is absolutely supportive of. And he will continue to support the Marine Corps' efforts to try and improve that readiness and improve that training. We think this is a critical part of the process.
And does the Secretary believe that when he transitions out and turns over the military to his predecessor, is he turning over a
His
military...
predecessor?
Excuse me, successor. Start over. Does the Secretary believe the military is in a better shape now than when he found it, or is it in worse shape?
The Secretary believes he inherited a military in excellent shape, and he believes he's leaving with a military in excellent shape, the best military in the world. And he is very confident that the steps he's taken will ensure that that continues, not only for his successor, but, as I said before, for those to come down the road. This is the greatest military in the history of the earth. And this Secretary feels very strongly about maintaining that edge, maintaining that force, and he's done everything he can to try and ensure, once again, that that continues into the future. Tara.
Thanks, Peter. Another one on the transition. One of the elements of the 2017 budget that the Secretary has discussed often is the European Reassurance Initiative, and even at NATO in this last trip discussing elements of the brigades that would be moving over to Eastern Europe. Is that now on hold given President-elect Trump's stated opposition to bolstering up NATO or having NATO contribute more?
We have one commander-in-chief at a time. We have a Secretary of Defense who's carrying out the policy of the current commander-in-chief, and we are executing the plans as they were constructed with our NATO allies in close consultations with NATO. And so we're proceeding forward, and we'll leave it to the next administration to speak to their policy choices.
I believe the brigade's timeframe was a January move over to Europe. Is that still on track?
I'm not aware of any change right now in plans, and again, for decisions that will come in the future, I'm not going to hypothesize. I'll leave it to the President-elect and his team to speak to that. Yes?
Yes, I have some questions on Mosul. With the liberation of Bashika, is it correct to say that my understanding correct, that the Kurdish Peshmerga have completed essentially their part of the battle to liberate Mosul?
I'll leave it to the passion, to the Kurds to speak to their role in this. They've certainly played a critical role so far in this operation, but I'm not going to speak to tactical moves as to what they might do next.
My understanding was that was it, and they've done their part, and the rest belongs to strictly Iraqi forces. Or
I will, again, leave it to the Iraqis to speak to the next tactical moves and the disposition of their forces.
And in the west of Mosul, the Shiite Hashd al-Shabi, the Popular Mobilization Unit, say they have cut the road between Mosul and Syria. Is that correct?
My understanding is there has been at least one of the roads heading west has been severed in terms of the line of communication to the lines to Syria. There may be other pathways to the west, but that has been, one roadway has been at least cut off, is my understanding.
A key roadway.
Yes. It may not be the only one, but certainly anything we can do to, again, pressure on ISIL and the ability to isolate ISIL within Mosul and cut it off from the other theater of this conflict is something that is important.
And finally, do you expect the liberation of Mosul to be completed under President Obama, or that this is an issue which President Trump will be facing?
We're not going to predict timelines at this point. We want this done as quickly as possible. Barbara.
Also on transition, Peter, can you, representing the Defense Department, can you unequivocally say at this point that the U.S. military would not engage in waterboarding, even if ordered to?
You know the policy position of this administration, and the law, in fact, with regard to this. That is not something the U.S. military is going to be conducting.
If the law is changed?
Barbara, I'm dealing with the law as it is right now. I'm not going to hypothesize and look ahead into the future. We're dealing with the here and now, and you know the position of this administration on that issue.
Let me just ask one follow-up, if I may. The law, as you say, is the law. So if U.S. military personnel looking at this right now, whether they are the most junior or the most senior commanders, if they can you explain to people, if someone in the U.S. military receives what they believe is an illegal order, an unlawful order, what are they supposed to do?
They have an obligation, obviously not to, you're talking about a legal situation, Barbara, or you're hypothesizing about something that I'm not aware of any members of the U.S. military right now being confronted with this, so I don't think it's something we should even be discussing.
I mean, you would want U.S. military personnel, again, whether the most junior or
To follow the law, that's correct. And so they're not going to get an order in violation of the law. So, yes.
Question about our transitions. How do you think the situation in Okinawa and Denver relocation plan will be affected by Trump administration? And how will DOD explain our briefing next to President about the Denver issue? Relocation plan is nothing changed or easy to review?
So I'm not going to speak to how the President-elect and his team may handle policy issues on this or anything else. What I will say is that we will continue to work closely with the government of Japan in terms of addressing this issue and moving forward. And it's a regular conversation we're having with our Japanese counterparts and, of course, the people of Okinawa and the leadership in Okinawa as well. So I'm not going to speak for the next administration. Carlo.
Peter, the commander of the Rocket Revolutionary Brigade, one of the Arab-centric units that are participating in this advance on Raqqa, he told the Mideast Eye today that he's pulled his forces out of the offensive, which basically means the forces that are moving into Raqqa now are all Kurdish YPG units. Now, you said from the podium, and others in the building have said that this coalition that's moving into Raqqa will be an Arab, local-led type force. Now, with these comments today, it seems it's going to be Kurdish YPG fighters moving into the city. Is there any comment from the building on that? I mean, is there any concern that this coalition is sort of falling apart?
The SDF is made up of several groups, including several Arab groups, so I don't know that what you've just presented is, in fact, an accurate picture of the makeup of the SDF. We remain confident that they're local Arab, other groups, including people from Raqqa itself, that will be part of not only the effort to isolate Raqqa, but ultimately the force that helps to take Raqqa and hold Raqqa. Ultimately, Raqqa will be governed and held by the people from the local population. Yes, Zach.
Going back to the transition quickly, you've mentioned Secretary Carter is focused on serving this president. Has he emphatically ruled out working for President-elect Trump?
He serves at the pleasure of this president, and he's focused on that.
So he has not made any comment about the potential for continuing in the role?
we are serving, the Secretary is here serving President Obama, and will continue in that role, and that's his commitment right now. Yes,
Thank
Jane.
you, Peter. President Trump had telephone conversation with the South Korean President Park last night. Do you have anything on that? Or what you mentioned?
I would refer you to Mr. Trump and his staff.
He mentioned about the strong alliance between U.S. and South Korea. And however, how do you estimate it? And can Trump change any policy toward North Korea or Korean Peninsula?
Janie, I'm going to say the same thing I've said on these other policy matters. If there's particular policy decisions that will be made by the next administration, you're best served speaking to them. We can speak to what is happening now in terms of our relationship with South Korea and our strong alliance ties with South Korea, and I will leave it to again, Mr. Trump and his team to speak to their views on the relationship with South Korea.
Another one, recently exercise of evacuations of U.S. citizens from South Korea. Do you have any detail of this? How did you, military families, U.S. citizens from South Korea evacuated to?
I'm actually not aware of any evacuations taking place right now, but I'll check with our team. If we have something on that, we'll get that to you. Yes.
The other day, Russia was telegraphing that it was within hours going to launch a series of airstrikes against what it called Islamic State positions in and around Aleppo, including some strikes that have been taken off from the Kuznetsov aircraft carrier. Is that something that Russia ever communicated with the U.S. about, and is there any insight into why we seemingly haven't seen any of those strikes?
I'll leave it to the Russians to explain their own military operations in Syria. And in terms of our standard deconfliction, if they're conducting flights over Syria and it requires deconfliction, then certainly we expect that to be conducted. But I can't speak to any communications we've had with them. I'm not aware of any particular communications about their activities beyond our normal correspondence with regard to our deconfliction procedures. Phil?
Have any senior staff, again on transition, have any senior staff submitted letters of resignation following the election? And has the Secretary spoken to any of his counterparts after the election to kind of reassure them that he still is the Secretary of Defense? And as you said, there are still months left of this administration.
I don't have any calls to read out to you right now, but he is the Secretary of Defense and plans to serve until January 20th, and that is should be clear to everyone. And in terms of people submitting resignations, I'm not aware of any at this point. Yes?
Peter, similar question. Recognizing that the Secretary is a political appointee, is there any desire or plan to sort of, maintain continuity elsewhere in the building or the department during the transition?
Well, as the Secretary made clear in his memo to employees, as he's made clear to all of us, we will do everything we can to ensure that this is a smooth and effective transition. As you know, there are uniformed military personnel and thousands of career civilian employees who will serve the next administration, so we have that continuity already. And one reason that the Secretary feels so strong about making sure this transition operates as smoothly as possible is, of course, to serve those folks as well who will continue to serve the next administration. Yes, Richard.
Peter, can you speak to the organization of the move south against Raqqa? For instance, who's in command of it? Who is in command of the SDF move against Raqqa?
The SDF is in charge of it.
Is that a YPG? Which element of the SDF is in command of the overall movement?
Yeah. So the SDF, as we discussed before, is made up of several different organizations, several different groups, and they all have a command structure, and they've had spoken to their movements. I'll leave it to them to describe their own command structure. It's not a command structure that is controlled by the coalition. We are enabling the SDF and providing air cover, air support, but we do not control the command leadership of that organization.
All of the various elements of the SDF have their own command? Are they moving independently under the
I believe
umbrella?
it's a coordinated effort that they've worked out, and again, I'll let them speak to their command structure and their organizational structure, but they are moving towards Raqqa, and they've made some seen success already on the ground, and we provided air cover. We've coordinated air cover with them, provided air support, and we'll continue to do so as they begin the isolation of Raqqa.
You say, who does General Townsend talk to when he wants to find out how the SDF is moving and what they intend to do?
We have the ability to communicate with leadership of the SDF, and General Townsend is able to communicate, as are his commanders. As you know as well, we've been working with them for some time, and we've been working with other partnered forces in Syria, and we continue to keep a close eye on the situation on the ground in Syria from the air, and there are some number of U.S. forces, which I'm not going to get into their disposition, but one of the reasons they're there is to be able to keep an eye on what's happening and be able to provide feedback to their commanders as to what's transpiring on the ground. Louis.
Peter, a question about the transition. Who's heading it here at the DoD? How long has it been in operation?
You missed my top. Eric Rosenbach, the Secretary's Chief of Staff.
This is going to be my follow-on question. Thank you. Mr. Rosenbach, how large of a team does he have here? And had there been contacts prior to Election Day where the respective campaigns could have contacted the DoD transition team?
My understanding is there was no contact with any of the campaigns prior, as per the normal rules. Mr. Rosenbach set it up, the Secretary designated him a few weeks ago to carry this responsibility, and he's been meeting, as I said at the beginning of the briefing, with senior leaders representing the various departments within the department, various units of the department, on a regular basis to make sure everyone was doing what was necessary to prepare for the transition, and that included a meeting even this week.
Is there a specific point at which where the president-elect's administration can reach out to the DoD? Is there some kind of a memo of understanding that has to be reached before someone can be designated to reach out directly to the DoD?
I don't know the legal framework, but my understanding is we stand ready to engage with the designated transition leaders with regard to the Defense Department for the next administration. As I said earlier, that to the best of my knowledge, as the time I came out here, that had not yet happened.
And on a different matter, in the Eastern Mediterranean, this Russian aircraft carrier has been there on station for a while. Have there been intercepts of American or NATO aircraft by the Russian aircraft there in the Mediterranean?
Yeah, I was just asked about their flight operations. I'm not aware of any contact that we've had in particular. Anything unusual hasn't been communicated to me. We have our deconfliction line, as you know, to prevent any risk of miscalculation or misunderstanding over the skies of Syria, and we will continue to use that. And we certainly, if they put additional aircraft over Syria, that's something that we would keep very close track of, and something we would expect would be deconflicted like everything else. Tara.
Budget question for you. There's still the matter of the 2017 budget, and especially if extra troops are going to be staying in Afghanistan, there was a question of whether additional money would be needed. What sort of back and forth is going on between this building and Congress right now to get a package through before the end of the administration?
Well, we've been working with OMB and for a supplemental, and we expect that there will be a request, and just at this point, I can't provide the exact details of that at this particular moment in time, but it's something that we've expected, and I think OMB and the White House has spoken to that they expected this would happen after the election.
When you say you expect a request, there's a request that has already been pushed up by the Secretary?
No, that there would be the Secretary has said we expected a supplemental of in the future, and after the election, I believe is how the White House expected it, and so I'd defer to the White House because this will be a request that would come from them. Let me go Laurent, because he hasn't had a question yet.
Thank you, Peter. I would like to come back to the transition and what's going to happen at the DoD. Can the Secretary envision a situation where we would stay the Secretary of Defense under Mr. Trump, or is it something that is really impossible to envision?
You're talking about a hypothetical situation. The Secretary is serving this Secretary, this President, and he expects to complete his term serving this President.
How about he see things now? It's not hypothetical. It's really how he envision things now.
The Secretary is focused on his job right now, and he wants to serve this President, and he's fully expecting to do that and is committed to doing that until the end of his term. Yes?
Peter, is it still a priority for the Pentagon to close Gitmo?
It remains certainly the priority for this Secretary, acting on the orders of the President of the United States, that if there's an opportunity to do that, that we want to take all the steps necessary to try and do that. Obviously, we have a change in leadership coming. We've had an election. We have a limited time window here, but certainly the Secretary of Defense is open to having that conversation with members of Congress who are key players in all this, of course, and that he still believes that there's a pathway to do that and to do it responsibly, and he would be open to having that conversation. Last one, and then I think I got to go.
Combining what's going on in Iraq and Syria with the transition, what type of concerns, have there been concerns expressed by any of the groups on the ground, whether they're part of the SDF or part of the coalition in Iraq that's focusing on Mosul right now, about the transition, and what types of things have you, as the Pentagon, been doing to reassure them about continuity from this administration to the next in terms of what they've been asked to do?
I'll leave you to speak to those groups about any concerns they may have. The one thing we are doing is, in a daily basis, is engaging with these groups, and they certainly know our commitment to seeing this through to the end of this Secretary's term. We are actively engaged every day, and will be, in Iraq and Syria to confront the ISIL threat. We have men and women in uniform right now flying over Iraq and Syria. We have people on the ground, as you know, in harm's way, carrying out this mission, and we're going to do everything we can to support them fully and to support our local partners fully in that effort until the Secretary leaves office. Okay. Thanks, everybody.